Hi, and warm welcome to our Cyprus Citizenship by Naturalization webinar. My name is Pamela Miller. I am part of the management team at Eltoma Corporate Services and Eltoma Properties. Our aim today is to cover the full sphere of the Cyprus Citizenship by Naturalization scheme, identifying the key areas and next steps to enable yourself to apply for the Cyprus passport. You will see on screen now the agenda which we're going to cover. We will be focusing on 4 areas. The scheme and the actual benefits of a Cyprus passport will provide to you and your family, and the full process, including the documentation required to support your application. By the end of our time together today, we will gain an understanding of the Cyprus Citizenship Scheme, including the benefits and the process, and receive information to assist you in identifying the next steps for yourself and potentially your family in gaining a Cyprus citizenship. We do have some ground to cover, so where it goes quiet for 1 or 2 seconds, I'm just having a small sip of water. Firstly, let's cover a few points linked to Cyprus. Cyprus is part of the European Union, becoming a full EU member on the 1st of May 2004. Sometimes Cyprus is quoted as being part of the Middle East. It is not. However, it is located near to this area on the world map, being 95 kilometres west of the Syrian coast and 325 kilometres north of Egypt. The Republic of Cyprus is the 3rd largest island in the Mediterranean Sea, and the population is just over 1.18 million per stats issued in September 2017. The time zone is GMT +2, and the local currency is euro. The political system is a presidential democratic republic, and the head of state is the president, who is elected by the people of Cyprus and serves a term of 5 years. We are in the process actually of our next president election during the month of January and beginning of February. Now focusing on the scheme itself. Non-Cypriot investors can acquire Cyprus citizenship by naturalisation by exception on the basis of the legislation of Civil Registry Laws 2002 to 2015, as seen on screen. As a part of the Cyprus policies aiming to further encourage FDI, foreign direct investment, and to attract high net worth individuals to settle and complete business in Cyprus, the Council of Ministers on the 13th of September 2016 revised the scheme for naturalisation of non-Cypriot investors by exception, establishing the new criteria and terms based on which non-Cypriot investors may acquire the Cypriot citizenship. You will find that the Cyprus Citizenship Programme offers the most simple and efficient means of obtaining EU citizenship. On the basis of the scheme, a non-Cypriot citizen who meets the following criteria may apply for Cypriot citizenship, either in person or through a company or companies in which he or she participates as a shareholder in proportion to his holding percentage, or through investments completed by him or her and with their spouse or jointly with the spouse. Or in another criteria, a high-ranking senior manager of a company or companies which meets one of the economic criteria. A high-ranking senior manager may apply, provided that he or she receives such a remuneration package which generates for Cyprus tax revenues of a minimum €100,000 over a 3-year period. Looking at the changes to the scheme, from the 13th of September 2016, as we mentioned, new criteria was introduced for the Cyprus Citizenship by Investment Scheme. The main changes that we will focus on are the level of investment is reduced from 2 to 2.5 million, as opposed to 2.5 to 3 million under the previous criteria. Parents of the investor can now obtain Cyprus citizenship with additional permanent residence of €500,000 in value. There is an abolishment of the criteria of bank deposits and a cap set on the investment in Cyprus government bonds. Let's talk through some of the key benefits of the Cyprus Citizenship Programme. To clarify, an EU citizen is any person who holds the nationality of an EU country. EU passport holders are entitled to enter, reside, study, and work in the European Union, also Iceland, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, and Norway. It is the direct EU citizenship programme that has absolutely no residential requirement. Investors and their families can obtain full EU rights, including the ability to live and work in any EU country. It is visa-free travel in 168 countries. Passports are normally issued within 6 months from the date of the application. And who are eligible? All nationalities. Dual citizenship is permitted. There's no requirement to relinquish your current nationality, and the main investment can be sold after 3 years. We will discuss this area in more detail shortly. Let's look more at the investment amounts involved. The applicant should make an investment of at least €2 million for one of the following: the purchase or construction of a movable property, whether residential or commercial, and whether related to the tourism sector or otherwise, including investment in land or infrastructure-related projects. Alternatively, investments in financial assets of Cypriot companies. We will cover this shortly. Let's focus on the real estate option first. So the €2 million investment in real estate, residential real estate, can be in a single property or a portfolio of properties. Within the property investment portfolio of €2 million required, €500,000 being allocated to the main private residence. An investor must purchase and maintain a primary resident property in Cyprus for a minimum of €500,000. This is an essential point. This property must be retained as the primary residence, otherwise the Cyprus passport will be recalled. A point to note here, I would say, property purchase up to 3 years prior to the submission of the citizenship application can count towards the required investment. And also, there is an exit strategy here. Following the passing of the first 3-year period, following the date of citizenship, all other properties, i.e. the main investment, within the €2 million property portfolio may be sold following this 3-year period. Okay, so staying with real estate for a few more moments, let's bring our attention to purchasing a property within Cyprus. Of course, this process will be different from that of your current location, and today we will provide a brief overview. First step, of course, is finding the property or properties that you wish to purchase. Do note that most properties on the island are freehold based, although recently in some cities leasehold properties are now available, however not common. The freehold definition, outright ownership of the property and land on which it is on. Freehold, you only own a leasehold property for a fixed period of time, the land returning to the owner of the land after the lease period has expired. So we've found the properties. We would then complete a reservation agreement. There would be a reservation deposit paid. It's normally within the range of 1 or 2% of the purchase price. You would agree the payment schedule for the property purchase, and next the seller and buyer enter into a contract of sale, which requires signing a legally binding contract. After the written contract has been agreed and signed, this contract can be deposited with the Land Registry Department, which provides a simple and legal instruction called specific performance. This procedure protects the purchaser's ownership rights until the title deeds are issued and transferred to their name. The contract deposited at the land registry can only be withdrawn by the purchaser, and therefore the property cannot be sold or transferred to another party, which I'm sure you would agree is a key point. Where the property owner has a title deed, otherwise known as an ownership certificate for your property, the transfer of the title deed with the buyer can be completed straight away. Where the property is still under construction or has recently been built, typically the developer may not have a separate ownership for the property, and you may end up having to wait some time before you receive it. Until the time of issuance, your legal ownership rights over the property are held by the sales contract with the Land Registry Office. Looking now at the costs information linked to the cost for a property purchase. First of all, you'll see here, yes, stamp duty is relevant. The percentages and the the valuation range is on screen. There is property transfer fees. These are based on the property's market value at the date of purchase. Note where the purchaser is required to pay VAT, the purchaser will be exempt from paying property transfer fees. Where no VAT involved, the purchaser will receive a reduction of 50% of the transfer fees. Looking now at VAT, where applicable, it will be 5% on the main residence and 19% on investment. Within the VAT calculation is the square metre size of a property. There are new properties which are exempt from VAT, linked to if the application from the town planning permit was submitted prior to the 1st of May 2004. Legal fees, as a general rule, between 1 to 2% of a purchase price. A movable property tax has been abolished on the 1st of January 2017. There could be capital gains tax payable on the sale of the property. However, this is out of scope of the webinar. Your legal advisor can assist with this area where this situation arises. There is no inheritance tax in Cyprus, being abolished on the 1st of January 2000. Let's now move our focus to the commercial route. Looking at Cyprus companies, the purchase, establishment or participation. There is a requirement to invest a minimum of €2 million in Cyprus company. The invested funds shall fully support the investment goals of the company exclusively in Cyprus, founded on a specific investment plan. Actual percentage of shares held in the company is not the key point here. The €2 million investment is the key point. This Cypriot company must have physical presence in Cyprus and prove operational within Cyprus. In addition, must employ a minimum of 5 either Cypriot or EU citizens who have been legally and consistently living in Cyprus during the previous 5 years prior to the application submission date. The minimum number of employees required shall increase if more than one applicant invests simultaneously or almost simultaneously in the same company. There is no fixed number of employees if more than one applicant invests simultaneously in the same business. We conclude an additional 3 to 4 employees extra per additional investor will be adequate. In addition to the €2 million investment, the other €500,000 must be utilised to the purchase of the main private residence. Now focusing our attention on the investment route. Looking first at the Alternate Investment Fund, the AIF. The investor must invest a minimum of 2 million in AIF units. The AIF must be established in Cyprus and be licensed and supervised by CySEC, standing for Cyprus Security and Exchange Commission. These investments should be made exclusively in Cyprus and should meet the criteria of the scheme and be approved by the Minister of Finance. In order to confirm that the investments meet the criteria of the current scheme and will be maintained for at least 3 years, the manager or the auditor of the fund shall inform in writing and on an annual basis the Ministries of Finance and Interior with reference to the value of the initial investment. It should be highlighted that the purchase by an AIF of units of another AIF is not considered eligible for this scheme. And again, please note that there is still the requirement to purchase the primary residency value of €500,000 plus VAT where applicable. Looking at an alternative investment, similarly, the investor must invest a minimum of €2 million in a Cypriot company's financial assets, such as securities and bonds. These companies have the same criteria as mentioned with the AIFs. They must demonstrate to have physical presence in Cyprus and significant economic activity within the Republic of Cyprus. And again, there is still the requirement to purchase the primary residency of €500,000 plus VAT where relevant. The investor can actually set up a combination of the investments on the condition that the total investment is a minimum €2 million. It should be noted that part of this investment combination can be placed in government bonds, with the amount up to €500,000 being available for investment. These bonds will be issued for the purpose by the Public Debt Management Office of the Ministry of Finance for a period of at least 3 years. The terms of these special bonds will be determined by the general and special issue terms of the government bonds of the Republic of Cyprus. Also to highlight, investments in government bonds through the secondary market are not considered eligible. And lastly, yes, there is still the requirement to purchase the primary residence of €500,000 plus VAT where applicable. Looking now at some of the terms and conditions. The applicant should have made the necessary investments during the 3-year periods preceding the date of the application and must retain the said investments for a period of at least 3 years as from the date of the naturalization. The applicant should have a clean criminal record both from the country of origin and from the country of residence where different. Furthermore, his name must not be included in the list of persons whose assets within the boundaries of the EU have been frozen as a result of sanctions. We've mentioned regarding the residential property, it should hold a residential property of at least €500,000 plus VAT. Where the purchase value of the permanently privately owned residence in Cyprus exceeds the amount of €500,000, the additional amount can be used for purposes supplementing the total amount of the investment required. The applicant, before the naturalization as a Cypriot citizen, must hold a residency permit in Cyprus for a period of at least 6 months. A permanent residence permit will be issued prior to naturalization, unless the applicant is a temporary permit holder already. Where the applicant does not already hold a residence permit, they can apply for an immigration permit on the basis of Regulation 6 of the Aliens and Immigration Law simultaneously with the application for naturalization. Where the applicant is acquiring an immigration permit, it's made solely for the purpose of acquiring the Cypriot citizenship. In accordance with the provisions of the scheme, there are no other conditions than those stated in the Cyprus Citizenship by Naturalization scheme. It is noted this point applies to adult members of the family of the investor who will apply for naturalization also. In case the application for naturalization is rejected, the immigration permit obtained in accordance with the provision of the decision will be cancelled immediately. Let's now look at the process. We will cover the gathering of the required documentation shortly. This will, of course, include the completion of the application form, referred to as an application by an alien for a certificate of naturalisation. Regarding costs, there will be governmental fees to be paid, service provider fee, and third-party fees involved. Do take note that the application form mentioned will be presented in front of a judge or registrar or counsellor office. Regarding the $2 million, it must be in an account in Cyprus to apply for the passport, or the property is already purchased and can produce evidence to support the purchase accordingly. Do take note that 3-character references are required, plus adverts in Greek in 2 separate issues of a Cypriot newspaper will be required to support the application. How many times does a person need to come to Cyprus? This is a good question. The applicant must visit Cyprus in order to submit the permanent residency and citizenship applications and to give their biometric data required for the issuance of the permanent residency card. The application for the naturalisation by exception needs to be submitted at the Ministry of Interior, and the government fees will need to be paid along with the property purchase agreement and all other required documents. At the Ministry of Interior, the original documents should be submitted along with a photocopy of all the other documents. So in conclusion, 2 visits is the standard requirement. Once an application is submitted, the examination process begins. First of all, the documents relating to the business activities and investments of the applicant in Cyprus are sent to the Ministry of Finance for evaluation on whether the applicant meets the criteria established by the Council of Ministers. Simultaneously, the Ministry of Interior investigates whether the applicant meets the other conditions of the decision of the Council of Ministers. If the applicant meets the criteria and conditions of the decision, the Ministry of Interior presents the case to the Council of Ministers for the final decision. Provided the application is duly submitted and accompanied by all the necessary supporting documents, and the investor meets both the criteria and conditions of the decision of the Council of Ministers, the time frame for the completion of the process is approximately 3 months. It should be noted that the application submission date is the date on which the submission fees were paid that is noted on the receipt issued by the Cashier Office of the Ministry. For the issuance of the immigration permit, which an applicant must hold, the collection of the applicant's biometric data, their fingerprints and photograph and signature, is mandatory. In order for the biometric data to be collected, and the applicant is required to appear in person at the Civil Registry and Immigration Department. Also, the applicant needs to present the original travel documents and pay the required fee. After the collection of the biometric data, the immigration permit card is issued normally within 5 working days. When the naturalisation procedure is completed and the applicant acquired the Cypriot citizenship, the immigration permit will be immediately cancelled. Where the application for naturalisation is rejected for any reason, the immigration permit, in accordance with the provision of the decision of the Council of Ministers dated 13 September 2013, will be cancelled immediately. Once the application is approved, the applicant will be able to take all actions for the acquisition of their citizenship and issue of the Cypriot passport. The procedure for the acquisition of the Cypriot citizenship will be completed provided that the applicant holds a residence permit for a period of at least 6 months. Where this is not the case, he or she will need to wait until the 6-month period is completed. Afterwards, the Civil Registry and Immigration Department issues the Certificate of Naturalisation following payment of the amount of €5,000 that constitutes the Naturalisation Certificate issuing fee. Subsequently, the applicant will need to give the oath of faith to the Cypriot Republic before a registrar of a Cypriot court or consular office of the Republic of Cyprus. The naturalization certificate must be signed by the applicant either in front of a registrar of the Cypriot court or consular at any Cypriot consulate abroad within 3 months of receiving approval. Once this procedure is completed, the applicant will be able to acquire a Cypriot passport and identity card, and this takes normally 1 month to complete. Moving on now, we will focus our attention on the family aspect. We will be looking at 4 areas: the spouse, the investor spouse I should say, the minor children, the adult children, and the parents of the investor. Included in the decision of the Council of Ministers, dated the 13th September 2016, provides for the grant of the Cypriot citizenship to the spouse or partner of the investor, to the parents of the investor, and to the financially dependent adult children of the investor also. The minor children of the investor has the right to acquire citizenship according to the provisions of Section 110 of the Civil Registry Law. The investor's spouse or partner may acquire the Cypriot citizenship after the investor has filled in his application form, which is referred to as Form M127. In order to streamline the process of the acquisition of the Cypriot citizenship by the investor's partner or spouse, the Council of Ministers decided to permit the submission of the spouse or partner's application along with the application of the investor, so that both the spouse and partners will be able to acquire the Cypriot citizenship simultaneously. A key point here is what is meant by the term partner. The decision of the Council of Ministers clarifies that for the purposes of the scheme, the term partner is interpreted in accordance with the provisions of the Civil Partnership Law 184 in the year 2015. According to this law, the Council recognises any civil partnership that had been concluded in the Republic of Cyprus or any other state in accordance with the legislation of that state as and is still in power. Looking at minor children, the application for the grant of Cypriot citizenship for the children of the investor that are under the age of 18 is submitted after the investor had obtained the Cypriot citizenship and provided that the other parent consents to the grant of citizenship. The application is filed at the Civil Registry and Immigration Department. You will see on screen here a summary of the documents that are required to support the application. Here now on screen, you can see an example of the form that's completed for the minor child. It is a 4-page document. The one on screen here is in Greek. We have managed to obtain an English version, which was not easily available from the government resources. That's the second page, just for a visual for you. Now moving on and looking at adult children. The right to apply for citizenship is permitted for the financially dependent adult children of the investor. An adult child is classed as being within the range 18 to 28 years of age. Regarding the financial dependent definition, the decision of the Council of Ministers states students up to the age of 28 that are attending an institution of higher education aiming to obtain a diploma, undergraduate or master's degree. The decision excludes individuals who are studying for the acquisition of a professional qualification, for example, chartered accountants. Also, children with severe physical or mental disability that renders them unable to work. Some additional key points to note here: adult family members of the investor prior to the naturalization as a Cypriot citizen must hold a residence permit in Cyprus, which is similar to the investors and spouse criteria. Where the applicant does not hold a residence permit, he or she may apply for the immigration permit on the basis of Regulation 6 of the Aliens and Immigration Law simultaneously with the application for naturalisation, again following the same process as with the main investor and spouse. The application for naturalisation by exception needs to be submitted at the Ministry of Interior following the acquisition of the Cypriot citizenship by the investor. Again, at the Ministry of Interior, the original document should be submitted along with a photocopy of all other documents, and there will be a requirement to book an appointment following the same procedure for the investor and spouse. On screen now, we prepared a list of documents that are required to support the application. The application M127 should be fully completed and signed before a registrar of a Cypriot court or consular office. And you will see also listed here that copies of the newspaper advertisements need to be included to support the application. Again, it should be in Greek, and there's 2 publications to support it. In summary, the investor and spouse or partner can submit and obtain their Cypriot citizenship at the same time. Then the minor and adult children follow thereafter with their applications. Focusing our attention now on the investor's parents, they may apply for citizenship after the investor has acquired the Cypriot citizenship. For the investor parents to be able to apply for citizenship, they are required to hold a permanent, privately owned residence in the Republic of Cyprus, the purchase price of which must be as a minimum €500,000 plus VAT where relevant. A key point to note here, the investor and his parents may collectively acquire a residence provided that the total value of this home is at least €1 million plus VAT where relevant. Regarding the immigration permit, the procedure needs to be followed for the submission of the citizenship application of the investor's adult family members that do not already hold a residence permit. The application for the naturalisation by exception needs to be submitted at the Ministry of Interior after the acquisition of the Cypriot citizenship by the investor, as a copy of the investor's naturalisation certificate must be included in the parent's application. Similar process to the investor for application form completion, gathering of documentation, and completion of a checklist of investors' family members' application documents. This, of course, being a different checklist to that of the investors. And also detailed on screen are the documentations required to support the purchase of the permanent residence property of the parents. Moving on now to section 3 and the documentation required. Focusing our attention now on the documentation required to support the application, we should first cover how the documents should be presented, what certification and language is required. All documents issued by a foreign authority should be translated to either Greek or English and should be duly endorsed as true copy. They should bear the stamp apostille if they are issued by countries that have signed the Hague Convention. Otherwise, they should be sealed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the issuing country and the diplomatic mission of the Republic of Cyprus in the issuing country. This applies to all documents being supplied for all parties involved, that is, the investor, the spouse or partner, minor children, adult children, and parents of the investor. Looking now at the investor's application, detailed on screen is a list of documents. I will show you an example of the checklist in a moment. There is a letter required from the investor in which the investment and criteria under which the application is submitted is briefly explained. And regarding the copies of the newspaper advertisements, the actual advertisement should contain the following. Notice is hereby given that full name of the applicant, of full postal address of the applicant, has applied to the Ministry of Interior for naturalization, and any persons who knows any reason why naturalization should not be granted is hereby invited to send a written and signed statement of the facts to the Ministry of Interior in Nicosia. And to recap, this newspaper advert needs to be in Greek. Where the applicant is a high-ranking senior manager, also required documentation is the following: a copy of the employment contract and receipts from the Department of the Inland Revenue. The original application, the M127, and all the required documents have to be produced in the original form to the Ministry of Interior, along with an additional copy of the application and all documents to be submitted. On screen now is a copy of example of the M127 application form. It is a 4-page document. And also an example of the checklist of investor. Again, this checklist is a 4-page document. Still with the investor's application, regarding the property purchase area, detailed on screen here is the documentation that is required to support the application. I'll give you a moment to review. Regarding the investment aspect of the scheme, example of the documentation is required. It is not a full list. There are many more documents required. Please drop myself an email linked to this particular area, and we will gladly respond with the full list for your particular situation. Looking at the spouse now. As mentioned previously, the application of the spouse or partner of the investor can be submitted along with the application of the investor so that both parties will be able to acquire the Cypriot citizenship simultaneously. A key point to note here, where the application is not submitted at the same time as the investor's application, additional documents are required to be submitted in addition to what is displayed on screen: a copy of the investor's naturalization certificate and a copy of the investor's Cypriot passport. As you will now understand, there are many steps linked to the documentation stage of the process, fully dependent on the person's own circumstances. It is at this stage we should cover what can be the reasons for rejection of the applicant. Criminal records being held, bankruptcy, classified as a PEP, a politically exposed person, frozen assets linked to the sanctions within the EU, and the non-delivery of documentation or information requested to support your application by the Ministry of Interior. Now, focusing your attention on the costs involved, I will just give you a moment to review on screen. Moving on now to section 4, how can Eltoma assist? You need to understand the process, the forms to be completed, where to go, what documentation you require to provide, and how to provide it in the original or certified true copy format. This can be a frustrating element of the Cyprus citizenship process. It is best to gain expert advice and support throughout the full process, which of course here at Eltoma we can provide for you. At Eltoma we have both the experience and knowledge and resources to support the completion of the application forms, the process per your individual requirements, and gathering all required documentation in the required format. We have multi-language skilled staff to assist at all stages of the process. You will be appointed your own Cyprus Citizenship officer who will accompany you through the full process, including, where necessary, visits to the Ministry office. We suggest call or email us for further information. We are now coming to the end of our webinar today. I will take a moment of your time to explain how we can assist you further. Here at Eltoma Corporate Services, we collaborate with island-wide developers and estate agents, bringing varied selection of properties for purchase, and some of the examples are on screen for you. We are committed to providing our clients the highest level of service and convenience, including assisting in locating the properties for your and your family needs, which support the Cyprus Citizenship Programme. In addition, summarised on screen is some of the other services which we can provide. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. You will see on screen all our contact details, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.